Hey guys, it's Intricate from AmigaLove.com. Today I want to walk you through a program that was written back in 1991. I want to show you how to install it and how to modify it to your own needs if you happen to still use 1.2, 1.3, or 2.0. Back in 1991, there was a gentleman named Gary Knight in St. Louis, Missouri, and he created some software that mimicked functionality that he had seen on a Next computer. Now that computer might sound a little familiar to some of you out there. It was eventually acquired by Apple, and that's where OS X comes from. But Next had this little strip of icons along the bottom that they called the dock. And Gary Knight really wanted to have that same functionality on his Amiga. So he created what's called the AmiDock, the original AmiDock, back in 1991. It's possible he even made some of these as early as 1989. But in any case, the version that I have, which I got on an original disc that someone purchased from him. Now, this was shareware at the time, and it was freely distributable as long as people didn't charge for it. But if you really liked it and found value in it, you were encouraged to send in $25, and he would send you a disc that had some additional stuff on it, which basically, I'm going to walk you through some of that stuff here in a little bit. You can also find this program on Aminet. Just take a look for AmiDock, and you'll find the original still out there by Gary Knight. What I want to do is I want to show you how to install it because it doesn't come with an installer. It's a little weird. And then once you have it working and running on your system, it's extremely powerful. It allows you to launch programs right from your Workbench with a single click. So anything that you find really valuable that you use all the time whenever you turn on your Amiga, one click, boom, you're in. It's really, really nice. Some of you might recall that OS 9 had this exact same feature on their operating system as well. The little strip along the bottom that you could load with different programs. It came with the operating system. It was considered so valuable. It absolutely is a tool I would never want to remove at this point, now that I've been using it for a while. Also, some of you folks might have actually seen this in action if you've ever used some of the more modern Amiga operating systems like 3.9 or 4.0. They also have an exactly named AmiDock. It was just developed by a different person, I believe in Germany potentially. But it's the exact same thing. He took Gary's work and just copied it with a lot more colors, from what I can tell. So let me show you AmiDock, the original. It'll run on any system that's got 1.2, 1.3, or 2.0, which I realize in today's world, that's not a huge audience, but there's still some of us out there. We do exist, and I hope you find this informative and interesting. So let's go take a look at AmiDock, guys. It's super cool. Okay, so let's pretend it's 1991, and you're actually looking at this for the first time. You might still be looking at this for the first time, but you know what I'm trying to say. Okay guys, so here's my Workbench 1.3, which I load on my 16 megahertz Amiga 3000. It has the ability to dual boot into either 2.0 or 1.3. This is what my 1.3 looks like. I have Dopus automatically loading up top. I've got some custom icons that I created in a previous video that I describe on how to do that. And then down here is the AmiDock. This is what I'm talking about. Now, you can move it around. And it has the ability to be reduced or expanded based on how many icons you want to show at a given time. You can also reposition its orientation to be vertical if you wanted to. See? Or if you wanted, I actually like the horizontal because it kind of reminds me of the docks that I used on the Mac. I'm just saying, it's true. And I love those. So what I want to do is walk you through on how to install this really briefly. You guys are going to be able to figure this out if I can. I guarantee it. You basically are going to move some particular files into some particular pre-existing folders that are already on your Workbench 1.2, 3, or 2.0. Let me just show you where those are based on what it tells you to do in the README. Okay? This comes on the original disk, but it's also available on Aminet, like I may have said before. Go to Aminet, print it out, put it there on your desk, and just read the darn thing, and you'll figure this out, no big deal. Now you're going to want to pop this down a little bit. Right here you'll see the step number 1, you want to get the ARP library in your libs directory. Okay, so let's go look at that for a second. If you look in here, there's the ARP library. Now you're going to want to, with the beauty of Dope, is you can just type in libs and it'll pop right to it. I'm going to copy this into here. Now you can see it's already there because I've already installed it. This was not here before. So this is where all your libraries exist, and you're going to move that into there. Okay, let's go back to the README now for step number 2. You need to copy the AmiDock program to your C directory. Okay, so back onto the disk. There's AmiDock, and you want to take its icon with it too. Sure, why not? Just in case. And then you're going to go to your C directory. Okay, and there she is. I've already moved that over as well. You just copy those 2 things over, no big deal. Okay, now let's go back to the README for step 3. Now, you're going to copy the dock directory to your hard drive or your Workbench boot floppy. I mean, if you're on 1.2 on an Amiga 1000, that's the only person that cares about that step. Otherwise, you're moving this to your hard drive. The dock directory contains the following files. So I dropped this right into my work partition. I don't think it really matters, but that's where I put it. And honestly, based on where this is going to, well, we'll look at this in a second, but I don't think it really matters where you stick that. But you're going to take the whole dock thing and drop it in. So let me show you where I did that. Over here is my work directory, and it's just that, the whole thing. So they're talking about this guy on this side. This dock directory moves over there. Okay, so far so good. Cool. Now you notice there's a bunch of other stuff on this disk. These are extras that came along for the ride because this is an actual disk that someone purchased. A gentleman in Seattle that I met a few years ago. He actually bought this disc and had it shipped to his home, and so he got some extra freebies from Mr. Knight for purchasing the shareware, which is pretty cool. In any case, now that that's done, the last step is to modify your startup sequence, and I actually did this a little differently. I modified my user startup, and let me show you how that looks. So I'm going to go to the CLI at this point. You know, I wonder if in England if they just call it the CLI, and here we call it the CLI. Or you guys ever get into that conversation about LEDs and LED lights? Anyway, that's for another day. So I'm going to go to change my directory to my S drive, right? S folder. And then I'm going to use the editor because it's built in. Everyone has their own way of doing this. There's a billion ways anyone could do this. This is just the way I did it, and it works, and it's fine. And so now I'm going to edit the user startup file. Okay. Now this is a bunch of other stuff I have in here, other assigns that were required for this Amiga 3000 to behave. If you go all the way down here to the bottom, here's my AmiDock section that I created, and what you want to do is you want to assign doc : space quote to wherever it exists, wherever these folders exist that you've already dragged over, whether that was the work or wherever. Mine's on DH1, which is my work folder, or partition I should say. DH1, and this is where that all lives. So you want to assign doc to that. And I needed to also add this, C:AmiDock, to launch it, to launch this program when the machine boots. Okay, that's how I told it to say, hey, go get the AmiDock program and fire it up. Because remember, we moved that stuff over there. Let me exit this. Remember when we did that over here on C? AmiDock? You want to tell it, well, you don't have to tell it, But I wanted to tell it to launch this on boot every single time I turned on the machine. You don't have to do it that way. You could just open up a shell and type AmiDock and go to the C and type AmiDock, and it'll just start right then and there. I wanted it to start every single time, just like I have Dopus running every single time I boot. So that just makes it easier. And that's, guys, it's that simple. That's how you install this to your machine. And you're going to notice a bunch of icons are going to come pre-installed. Mine's different than what you're going to see when you install this. These are some things that I've created. I made this one, I made this one, I modified this one, and I have a plan to make several more. Let me show you what I've done so far, just to kind of show you how cool this is. Go ahead and pop AmiDock out of there. I don't need that in there anymore. Okay, so for example, this is a little built-in calculator we all have. This is the command prompt, which I was using earlier. It's just so much easier and faster to get to your stuff that you use a lot. This is 64 door, which is an amazing PETSCI capable terminal. Obviously, this little pyramid here with the paintbrush. Well, of course, that's our favorite deluxe paint. AE is Amiga Explorer, because I actually use that from time to time to move some files back and forth. Things like that. So things that you use a lot, you want to pop in here. I have plans to make a WordPerfect icon and a few other things. For now, though, this is pretty much it. This has really made me happy right here, especially having 64 right there. I don't have to go drill down into folders to get to it. Pretty cool stuff. So when you install it, what do you do? How do you make it work? Because none of these buttons are going to work for you. You have to obviously modify them. If you want to just keep what they have, or maybe remove a few of them, you're going to click in the little corner just to activate the dock to make it active in Workbench. Right, though, let me just show you how to find it on your hard drive. Let's say you already have AdPro on your hard drive somewhere. You're going to click this load button. I made the mistake of trying to type these by hand and I got completely confused and it sucked. You want to, it just did. You want to click on load and you want to go through these buttons and folders and whatever to go find that stuff. And then once you do, then all of this is going to be right. You don't have to worry about name because it's going to fill that in for you. That's just the name of the program you want to launch. Down here is where you pick the brush for it. And this one, like I said before, this was pre-created for us. Don't have to do anything there unless I just want to. And so I just left it the way it is. Okay? So that's good to go. Now, what if you want to create your own stuff or you want to remove their stuff? Let's delete one. Let's delete AdPro. It's going to give you the same thing. It's not exactly intuitive, but if you click OK, it just removes it. Now, if I reboot my machine, it'll come back. The only way to make that permanent is to go into Dock and save the config. It's a little weird that you have to manually do that, but I think they did that. I think Gary did that just in case you might have made a mistake. It wasn't brutal nuclear force. It's more, oh, okay, yeah, I really meant to do that. Ideally, it would have given you a pop-up or something once you did the save to either confirm or cancel, but regardless, this works too. Save config, and that'll save that icon being gone. Okay, now, final thing I wanted to show you guys, because this is the fun part. What if you want to create your own buttons? You want to create your own buttons. And by the way, you can create as many buttons as you want. This can go right off the screen because you can always minimize and expand it. This isn't deleting. This is just kind of moving it out to whatever size you need it for that given moment based on the work you want to do. Okay? You can add as many buttons as you want. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add. First thing you have to do is click on the load button to go find whatever it is you want to load when you click that button in the dock. And how about inside of tools? And I'll say, I don't know, sysinfo. How about that? That'd actually be kind of cool. So, sysinfo, because we use that all the time, right? Not unless we're just addicted to hardware, but whatever. So, then what you do is the dock image. You need to find the dock image, so you're going to go load. Now look, you can actually, this is pretty neat. It has brush, text, and icon. So in theory, I could create an icon for this and use Icon Master for it. I've not actually done that personally yet. I've been doing it through brushes, which is not amazing, but it works. I should test this and see if that works. I feel like I read in the README that text is a button that actually doesn't work in this version. In any case, I'm going to stick with brush, and I'm going to load, and I'm going to go to where I have some saved inside of here. So I look for my... Don't you just love the way they order these things sometimes? It doesn't seem to have a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. Now, I'm using non-interlace mode at the moment, obviously. So I'm going to go pick one from here. Now, you're going to see inside of here, and I think this might be because of the disk I have. I could be wrong. They could exist on Aminet. But it comes with a bunch of brushes that people back in 1992, somehow these 1992 files wound up on this disk. So even though the program was made in 1991, he was continuing to support it, obviously, beyond that, and people created their own brushes and sent them to him in grids. And you can actually use those if you see something really cool for your own purposes. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So for now, though, I'm just going to go inside of AmiDock. This is where all of your current stuff lives. Inside of AmiDock, and this is a little strange to wrap your head around, but he used brush files, which are just sort of another type of icon, right? And inside of here, there's more than normal, because I've been making a few of these over the last several days and weeks. But in any case, come in here and you're going to pick one. So I'm just going to pick a random. I'll pick an Amiga Vision, which I don't have installed on this machine right now. Okay, and I'm going to say okay to that. So pretend Amiga Vision is actually something specific to sysinfo. If I say okay, there it is. And if I click on that, it should launch sysinfo, which it does. And it's instant and it's awesome. Here it is, sysinfo. Sweet. Now, folks, hopefully you have a copy of Deluxe Paint of some make or year, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. I'm sure of it. And if you have Deluxe Paint on here, let's go ahead and fire up Deluxe Paint. So you're going to go ahead and say okay to all this default stuff. And what I would recommend first, if you don't know how to draw, or you're intimidated by that, or you don't want to mess with it, you just want to get things working fast, let's go take a look at those pre-made icons first, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go back into Dock, non-interlace, and let's take a look at Claude Girolet's brushes. He has a beautiful name. He probably has some beautiful icons. I don't know. So I'm going to load those. It says, do you want to change the format? Yes, you do. You want to take it to the native, whatever he made it as. And so now it obviously looks like I'm looking at OS 2.0 and above. So yeah, he actually made these back in 1992. Now, most of what's on here, just from looking at it real briefly, I don't think I would ever use any of these. Maybe the music one. That's cute if I want to use that. Yeah, he's got like the PC Exchange over here. He's got some 3D tool stuff. He's got an X modem. Most of this stuff I wouldn't use, but I would. This little telephone's cute. How do I use that telephone? It's all on one big file. Let me show you. What you're going to want to do is take this tool here. Now, in my Photoshop of 20 plus years experience, because I'm getting old, this is the clone tool. But in Amiga world, this is the brush tool. Whatever you see on the screen, you can create and turn into a brush, right? Pretty sweet. Undo that. Let's zoom in on this to make sure we get all the pixels. So I did. I totally nailed that. Not bad. Not bad, Eric. So now that I have this, what I can do is because it's loaded as a brush on my screen, I can go to brush save. Okay. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, I want to stick it over in that other place with the main stuff. So you have to go hunt down your dock directory, non-interlace, and inside of here is AmiDock. And I'm going to call this telephone, I guess, because that's explicit as to what it looks like. Okay, and I'll save it. Beep. Didn't save this file off in any weird way. It just created an icon or a brush file based on what I had loaded. So it's going to bark at me when I quit. Do you wish to, because it thinks I've changed something, and I really haven't. And I have no intention on messing with this file, so I'm going to say no. Okay, now let's use the icon that I just stole. So I'm going to go back and click in this little corner. I'll just stick it in the middle screen so you guys can see it a little better. And I'm going to add, you load the brush down there. There. Up here you actually want to go pick the program. So work, tools, no it's not a tool. It is in work though. Work, terminals, ATOC, 3, there it is. Now this is interesting. That icon, and this is one of the things about Amiga icon work that's kind of frustrating when you're going between 1.3 and anything above. It's basically a negative. The two are negatives of one another. They don't really coexist very well in the same world. Some of them do. You have to really think through it. But if you design it specifically for 1.3, it's probably going to look like crap over in 2.0. You have to kind of make it look a little janky in 1.3 for it to live well in both, which is what I would describe this as. So in this particular case, and this is one more thing I wanted to show you before I sign off, is how to modify these. So let's go ahead and load Deluxe Paint, and let's load that telephone. Do you want to change? Yes. I don't really, because I'd really rather be in the other palette, but I'm not. Okay, so you want to kind of tap this around so it's, so basically, if you see white, that should be black. If you see black, that should be white. If you see blue, this grayish blue flips to orange, and gray, which you can't even see because it's the background, that's actually the blue Workbench screen, right? So what I would do in a case like this, just follow along for a second, is I'm going to make that gray, which when I save this will turn it into blue, the dark, beautiful blue. Commodore blue, okay? If you don't like it. Now what do you think about it? Well, if it's Commodore blue, I guess I have to like it. Exactly. See? See how I just flipped that over? There. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm not gonna be able to live with myself. Okay, now this is a little tricky because we're gonna have to actually do some drawing. And so what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna cheat, because I actually need to flip the black and the white. So in order to do that, as I'm gonna make this all this color first, then I'll make this white. Okay, so it'll just take a second. I'm just using the paint bucket tool to do some of this. Okay, now I'm gonna go grab black and flip that. Okay, is that what I want? No, but that's what it's forcing me to do. So now this is a little bit tricky. You don't save this file, right? You save the brush. Remember? We're gonna save. Oh, now this is fascinating. You must have user-defined brush. Okay, that means they want you to click on the clone tool or the paintbrush, the brush creation tool, and perfectly select the icon. There. See how it's loaded into RAM? Now I'm going to save the brush again. It's not going to yell at me. I'm going to save it on top of itself. Back in, oops. Start over. Start over. Start over. What the hell? Come on now, Workbench. Let's undo you. Okay. Sometimes you just have to get in there and tell her who's boss, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's go over here, go to dock, non-interlace, get down into the main dock, find that telephone brush, and save on top of itself. Oh, are you sure? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna quit and you're not gonna like it. Are you sure you wish to, do you wish to save current changes? No. Okay, still hasn't fixed it, right? because I have to actually do a quick soft reboot, or I probably could kill the program and then go into the CLI and reboot it. This is actually faster, and I'm lazy. My machine boots really quickly. Oh, and I didn't save. See, I didn't save the configuration. So let's go at it again. That's actually a good learning moment. Go load, and I'm going to drives, work, and I'm going to pick the ATOC 3 in terminals. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Okay. And telephone brush. There you are. There it is. That looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? Now you'll notice, and I plan on doing this to all of my icons, but I actually inverted the button. This is how it looks in 2.0, right? Like an actual button sticking out at you in 3D. All of my other ones, because they're more or less negatives of 2.0, they look sunken in. And so I'm going to have to go in and open each one and reverse the color of the top and the side and the bottom and the right side in order for them to all look like cool buttons like this. Okay, so what do I do to keep it? Go to Dock, Save Config. And now this is a permanent button in my AmiDock for 1.3. Now, if I were to reboot this machine into 2.0, this AmiDock will not be here. It needs the same libraries and stuff installed over on that partition, so I'd have to go through that process. And I could create unique icons for it, so in each world, they both look like they truly should exist that way. Pretty freaking cool, if I do say so myself. I hope you guys give this a chance, because if you've never used it, oh my god, it's amazing. It just speeds up your productivity inside the Amiga. So guys, I also wanted to just really quick demonstrate how this is not going to take any kind of performance hit onto your Amiga by adding the software if you decide to make it a part of your startup sequence. It's actually, I can't even tell the difference. Let me turn mine on and show you how fast this is. Now, I need to boot into 1.3, so that'll just take me a second. My 3000 is one of the older versions that has the ROM tower, so once I click hard drive, that's officially when this is beginning. Ready? Go. And it's already loaded. Boom. It actually loads before the rest of Workbench does, which is kind of amazing. I also went ahead and made all of my buttons behave properly for 1.3 in terms of how they pop out rather than sink in, like all of the 2.0 versions do. I also went in and modified the telephone icon just a little bit so that it looked a little cleaner in my eyes. You know, but that's what part of the fun of all of this is once you get it all running and working, fiddling around with these to make them look exactly the way you want. I actually find a lot of joy in that, so I hope you do too. Now guys, as usual, down below this video there's going to be a link to an article where you can read the instructions of what I'm doing on video. You can go through it step by step on your own with the document. I'll also have the original disc. I'm going to rip an ADF of that, and you can download what I have, which may have some extra stuff in it. Or you can just go to AmiNet and find it and download it yourself from over there as well. It's totally up to you how you want to go about that. If you want to follow in my footsteps, which I highly encourage you to do, you're really not going to regret installing this software and having some fun with it next time you fire up your Amiga.